Hey there, TNA fan. Welcome back to the impzonepod podcast. We're here again to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans. And I want to talk about why it is easy to phone it in or phoning it in. It's really easy to phone it in. Like, it's really easy. And I think this is something that I talked about before, where it's like one of those things, like when you're getting paid a lot of money, like we talk about Hall and Nash and whatnot and what they did in WCW, like they did some stuff definitely, but there was a lot of times, Hogan too, a lot of people were just like phoning it in back then. You know, they were phoning it in because it was easy, because they were like, well, I'm guaranteed to get this money. And like, especially the people that were like Hogan, Nash, Hall, all those guys that were like, well, I'm already over, so what do I have to really do, especially in ring, to get over or whatever else it is? You know, I don't have to work that hard. I don't have to do all this stuff to get over because I'm already there. So what do I need to do to go out there and have a match? You know, like I could go out there and have a 5-minute or 10-minute match, and I can just walk through the paces, so to speak. It's so easy to do that. Just, you know, walk, punch, kick, whatever. You know, like, don't take very many bumps. Maybe take one big bump or whatever else it is, or whatever, or a finisher, whatever. But, like, it's super easy, but it's not fulfilling. And that, I understand some people, like, this is what I mean by saying people who sign with, like, WCW or sign with AEW or WWE. Like, I think WWE is much more picking of people. Like, I think that they don't really hang on to as many people that are just kind of there to coast or whatever else it is. I do think, even though that they've got a lot of people there that they seemingly don't really use all that much, I feel like they are trying to cut it down and whatnot. But, like, I don't really know. It does feel like they've brought in a lot of superstars that they have ideas and things for, but it's like, oh, okay, well, we don't really know how to kind of get there because we've got all these other superstars. Same with AEW. It's like, oh, we've got all these other superstars, and sometimes that's a blessing and a curse, because it's like, oh, we have all these superstars that we have already, so why would we go out of our way to make some of these people get over? And I think that that's one of the problems that WWE have had in the past. Like, there have been people that have gotten very over in the past, but they've just been like, so what? We don't really need to push, you know, Dolph Ziggler. We don't need to push CM Punk that hard. We don't need to push anyone that hard. We've got John Cena. You know, we that's all we need. All we need is John Cena. That's our guy. That's who we've got, and that's what we've got, and that's all we need. We don't need anybody else. Oh yeah, we might need some opponents for Cena, but whatever. We'll just put the belt on the Miz for like a week or whatever, or a couple of weeks or whatever, and yeah, then John Cena will beat him. Or we'll put the belt on Batista for a few weeks or whatever, and then Cena will beat him or whatever. But Cena will be the champion, and we'll just put some random people up against him in matches that don't really belong there and things like this or whatever. But and it's just phoning in booking as well. Like, it's like, we have our formula or whatever. And sometimes it is like that. Like, it's, like I say, like the B pay-per-views or the C pay-per-views or whatever, the lesser pay-per-views or whatever you want to call them. Sometimes it does feel like, oh, this is very predictable and nothing's really going to happen, sort of thing. And you've got more or less a B-plus player, so to speak, in that role of challenger to the champion. Sometimes it's not just about saying, oh, well, yeah, we put this person in there that's this B-plus player. Sometimes that chance for that person to say, okay, let me make the most of this. You know, let me show you that I'm serious and I'm going to be on this level, or that I deserve to be in this space and on this level and doing this thing, and I am a real draw for the company. I'm not just a guy that's here that's going to be a good hand or what you know, like, that's the thing. I think a lot of people have that in them, where it's like, they're either just like, ah, man, whatever, I don't care. Like everyone's their own, person as well. It's like everyone's an individual. Sometimes, like it is a little bit hard to be motivated. Sometimes I get that. I'm hard to be motivated sometimes as well. But yeah, again, it's one of those things. It's like some people are very hard to motivate, and some of them are just like, oh, dude, I'm here and I'm happy to do what I'm doing, and absolutely be happy to be doing what you want to be doing and following your dreams and passionate about what you do and all of that sort of stuff. It's a lot of work still, but it's like if you're just gonna coast along and you're just like happy to sort of be a part of the process or whatever and do what you do and get paid for it, I understand that. But again, like I would have way too much more ambition, and that's why I wouldn't ever coast. I wouldn't ever want to be coasting. I would, like Frankie Kazarian was sort of talking about. He was in a very coasting position over there in AEW. He was in a very comfortable position, but he said, "No, I'm done." Like that's not what I want to do. This is not where I want to be. I want to be challenged. I want to try to be the top guy. I want to try to be the best. I want to try to, take my opportunities, especially while I can. I don't know how many years I've got left. I want one last chance to be the top guy, and then, I'll slowly wind myself down. And fair enough to him, betting on yourself is a really big thing. Like, I don't think I could ever, as I say, coast, but it's really tough to sort of bet on yourself and take that risk sometimes because, I can understand where you're like, oh man, am I really good enough or whatever, any of that sort of stuff. But it's one of those things when you go to a promotion and they say, hey, we're going to hire you and whatnot, and then, okay, suddenly you're getting less bookings or whatever else it is, or there's not as much interest, they don't seem as keen, or they seem to have just forgotten about you, or whatever else it is. I mean, it's extra money in your pocket, isn't it? So it's like, well, if they don't want me to come there or they don't have plans for me, I'm just getting extra money to do my indie dates effectively, or do my other dates that I'm doing. So why am I not just taking that money or whatever it is? Even if, I say, oh, well, by having this contract with whomever, that means I can't go to WWE, or that means I can't go to AEW, or that means I can't go to TNA, or it means I can't go somewhere else and try to break out, or whatever else it is, or really try hard to climb that ladder, or whatever else it is, and be a real superstar. And I can get that where it's like, oh man, like as I sort of was saying, maybe there's that little issue some people have of being like, could I really do it? Could I really be... How could I do it, and that sort of thing, and how can I prove it to them because I'm over here? Like, this is something that a few people have had, and I don't want to single anyone out, but it's like Santana, like he had that, and Kazarian, he had that, where it was like, oh man, I'm just in this position, I've been in this position for so long. Nick Nemeth, he was in that position for so long. Look at Finn Balor. He's been in that position for so long. And it's just like, like I say, Finn's amazing, Nick's amazing, like these guys are great wrestlers. Steve Macklin, he was sort of in that place for a while. He's amazing as well, and he came out and said, hey, I'm going to prove that I'm a top guy, or try to prove that I'm a top guy, or belong in that conversation, or whatever else it is. Same with Mike Santana, same with a bunch of these other guys. They've gone out there and gone, you know what, I'm going to prove my worth. Like Matt Cardona, he went out there, tried to prove his worth, and said, I'm just going to be as the best thing that I can be, so that hopefully, even if WWE do want me, hey, well, that's cool, they want me back. If they don't want me back, oh, well, I'm going to be happy because I'm going to be here doing my thing, and I'm going to be successful, and I'm going to be fulfilled, and I'm going to be well paid. And if somebody says, hey, like, we want you here for a week, or we want you there for a week, or whatever else it is, like, that's the ultimate freedom. Like, don't sign a contract. Like, But then again, it's like, well, if I sign a contract, it's like hard to say, well, that's free money. Yes, it's free money, but then what happens? They might be like, oh, forget about you for a few weeks, a few months, a few years, whatever it is. Who knows? That you never know what's going to happen, with any company, except for companies that basically only have like a handful of wrestlers and there's a lot of open space for you to say, hey, look, I could fit in absolutely anywhere and basically everywhere because, hey, that company, they don't have many people. They have a lot. The people that they do have are fucking awesome, but like they don't have a lot of people, Whereas over here they have a lot of people, and yes, some of them are absolutely awesome, but like they have so many people that are all vying for the sort of very few positions that there are here. So it's like a harder race to sort of be in that race of saying, am I the smaller fish? Am I the bigger fish in the smaller pond or whatever? Or whatever, like maybe, but like, yeah, at least like I have the opportunity there because it's like there's less fish in that pond, so to speak. So if I am that bigger fish, I'll stand out much more as well, and I'll get my opportunity quicker and easier. So that's why I really think TNA is a great ground for people to come and prove themselves and bet on themselves. Because WWE, like, maybe yes in NXT, but not on the main roster. Like, you can't go, like, well, they probably won't let many people go to the main roster. It's very unlikely that you'll get to the main roster. You've already got to be a really good proven draw for them to be like, oh, yeah, we'll put you in, Raw without, you having to go through the training center or without you having to, do this or do that or whatever else it is. Yeah, we trust you and we know that you can perform and we know that you're a draw and we know where you're going to stand and we know what's all going on and yada, 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 So I think there's a big part of that where it's like, yeah, you could go to NXT, but, it feels like for guys that are like Finn Balor, or at least Finn Balor a few years ago, or AJ Styles, and I know AJ didn't go there, but like Samoa Joe, some of these guys that have been doing this for a long time, or are somewhat proven draws in some ways, it feels like they're already guys that probably should be on the main roster, like guys like Joe Hendry or whatever. Those people should probably just be on the main roster, but it's like really tough to say, well, what about learning the WWE style? But then, they were there for like so long, it was like, dude, how long does it take to understand their style, whatever else it is, or their way of doing things. I don't think it takes that long to understand or whatever else it is. And even so, I think, I think learning that stuff on Raw or SmackDown or whatever else it is, even if it's on the dark match, I think it's something that people would accept. I think people would accept that much more than they would accept, just being, or whatever it is, just being on this other show that no one, seems to really actually care about. Like, is it like, and I said before, it's like, is it that you're trying to get these guys on there to be a big draw for that show? But then again, it's like, well, that show doesn't draw that big anyway. So, and WWE is its own draw in many ways. And the fans that are going to come to the Performance Center or going to come to an NXT show are the most hardcore of hardcore, WWE fans. So they're going to go there pretty much no matter who's there for the most part. They've got to be in the know. So you're not going to get, and that's most of the arenas that they run are very small arenas for the most part. So they're not going to be like, there to go, oh yeah, now we've got to sell out some bigger arenas, or we're going to get another shot, or whatever else it is, or we're going to build it up, or we're going to get, we're going to do more, or whatever. No, it's pretty much the same the whole time. So it's like, well, what's going on there? it's always going to be very much the same. But that's the thing. It's like, well, the audience is always going to be roughly the same, So it's like, well, where's the point in trying to draw crowds by bringing like people that are, higher acclimated draws to that brand? It's like, so what does that mean? It means that you're pigeonholing or, kneecapping, or you're maybe you're saying, oh, well, again, it's to integrate people or whatever. No, not really. You could integrate people very easily to the main roster and whatnot. Maybe it's to say, okay, it's for us to get acclimated to this person and who they are, what their story is, or maybe it is for the audience to actually see this person in our rings, or just whatever, because again, we know who they are, and maybe the hardcore fans know who they are, or whatever it is, and they're very well established. But like the casual fans go, who the flub is this? Like, or whatever. So maybe that's the key thing there, where it's like we're trying to get them that level of exposure somewhat with the WWE audience. But then again, it's like, well, you're only exposing them to the most hardcore of hardcore fans. But then again, the most hardcore of hardcore fans in there are going to be like reacting big to them, because it's like, oh my God, it's this person, whatever, and whatnot. And that can make them look bigger, but then again, it's also like saying, well, did like most of the more casual fans actually know about that, or see that, or care about that? Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting for me to see where it is, because sometimes it's the talent themselves, sometimes it's the management themselves being like, we don't think you're ready, whatever, or we don't really trust it yet, or we don't, whatever it is, or we don't have a story ready for you ready yet. The thing is, like I've said this before, it's like, I know that people don't love the mid-card sort of division, but I think it deserves more love in some ways. But it's one of those things about a mid-card division. I think people see it as just a stepping stone, not really like a place for people to get something or get a prize. Maybe because of how like prestigious these titles have been classically, or whatever, like, or is it just like they see it as like, like it should be seen as a proving ground, but it's often more or less seen as kneecapping people, just saying, oh, you're a good B+ player or whatever, we don't really care about you being a main event person, or we don't think you're ready for that role. But that's the thing, like, this is often the stepping stone and that proving ground for some of these people, where it's like, yeah, we want to see if the crowd will react to you and will embrace you in a championship role. So it's often a place for people to be like, hey, we're going to elevate you to this position and see what the fans think and see how they react, or whatever else it is, or whatnot. But, we're not ready to see if you're at the top level yet. But I do wonder if it's all that necessary. I don't know. I think that people can and maybe should just forget about like a mid-card scene sometimes, because it's just such a, from the fans' perspective, it's just such a thing that, seems to limit people and seems to say, you're in your box now, or whatever else it is, so we can leave you in your box and doing whatever you're doing, and whatever, we don't really care because you're not a main event person, or we don't see you as a main event person. But, like, maybe we will if eventually someday you're really turning things around specifically, or you're the guy that we think can carry this story that we're looking for. Because that's the thing, like that's what they're looking for. They're looking for um, not just guys that are quote unquote ambassadors or whatever else it is. It's saying, hey, well, we need somebody that can carry this belt for the story or for what we're planning. It's not just saying we don't, like, maybe we don't believe in you or whatever else it is. Like, I know that that's what people's perception perhaps is or whatever, but it's saying, hey, this is a stage for you to show us that you can do everything that we want you to do in the next level, so that we can trust you, and so that we can, or that we can see, hey, you're starting to grow, you're starting to outlive this area, or you're starting to feel like you could really be something interesting, or we could do something with you in a story perspective, not just, oh yeah, you're pretty cool and charismatic or whatever, or you're pretty good in the ring or whatever, all of these things. It's like, it's more than that. But the thing is, like I said before, WWE, and that is a big draw on its own for the most part. So it's like, to me, you could take any risks or any like ideas that would come to your head, which is good in some ways, but it's also fairly much a lackadaisical sort of approach to things. Like, they don't really take that many chances, and I think that's what the fans want. The fans just want people to come in, wreck shop, get to the top, and then be the top dog. They don't want to see these guys toiling away for years, like maybe a year or something. But after like 1 or 2 years, they don't really want to see, like, even that. Like, I think like that's way too much in their minds. But after that, they definitely just don't want to see them in that role. They want to see them up at the next level, up in the world title position, or up in the upper card division. I think that, again, as said, I wonder if the ambition sometimes is there from some people, but it has to be, like, in some ways. You wouldn't be, I don't know, because you would, like, surely you wouldn't be sitting there and being like, oh man, yeah, cool, great, I got this title, so now I can sit back and relax or whatever. If you're not the top guy, even then, it's like, wow, no, even then you can't sit back and say, oh, well, I can ride this coattail until it ends. That's the way that it sort of ends. Like, I understand, like, saying, oh, well, when do you get your moments to go and enjoy it, or actually, like, be in that moment of like, oh man, I finally got here after all that work and after all the stuff that I went through to get here. But like, that's what you've got to do. You've just got to keep the ball rolling, so to speak. You can't get there and be like, oh, well, I can rest on my laurels now and I don't really care, I'm just going to phone it in. You've got to be like, no, now I'm at this level, now I've got to be the guy that I wanted to be all that time that I was trying to get here, and now I'm finally here, and now I finally get to do this thing, and now I'll go down my own little quest to, build somebody else up so that they can have their moment or whatever, or whatever, it's not just about me, like, that's the thing. Like, people forget that this is a team game sometimes, in many senses. It's everyone working together, even if they don't love or whatever each other sometimes, to achieve, the best outcomes for the wrestlers, for the performers, for the company, for each other. But yeah, like fans don't see the value in it. Fans don't see the value in like not placeholder, but a placeholder position in that sense. It's really useful for young guys that are only just getting in the business. Unless, like, again, I'll talk about this as well. Unless, like, it's a specific division, like the tag team division, people don't really care about, like, people earning, like, that mid-card title. People care about them getting up to the world title division or the main event scene. And that's what they want to see. Like, again, but, like, when you've got some of these quote unquote old timers, so to speak, that, aren't really main event guys anymore, but still have something to give back to the business, I think you stick them in that sort of mid-card division to help elevate some of the new talent that are just sort of coming in, and to give them a belt, and to give them a short title run, or to give them a story, or to give them different things in that division, to start saying, okay, we want to see whatever we can see from you for the next, 6 months, the next year, whatever it is, and we're going to start building your reputation. It's not just saying, this is what we want to see. Okay, cool, that's what you want to see, but we've got to build this person's legitimacy. We've got to build this person into a superstar, into a draw in some ways. Usually that's how wrestling works. But with WWE, it's like completely the opposite in some ways. Like, yes, you've still got to build somebody's legitimacy, but you could do that in 1,000 ways. Like, giving them another title is just strapping something to them that they don't really need. The prestige of those belts has continued to go down and down and down and down. The more belts that you have, the more the prestige of those belts kind of goes down. It's like, one of those things. That's why it's better to have fewer belts that are just like, no, these are the few titles that are actually important and actually worth, coming to get. I said before, like, somebody said something about, like I said it before a long time ago, about the mid-card knockouts title. I said, like, does it make any sense? It makes some amount of sense, because it'd be like this title that people can earn and can do something else with. It'd be good for some of the older performers that are like, I can't really be the main event person anymore, though there isn't that many people in that position really. But like, and then it'd be good for the younger people that are just coming in to be just like, oh cool, now I've gotten, especially singles people or singles performers, getting that next step up. Like the international title, maybe it should have just been a females title to begin with, because like, or maybe it should have been an X Division title for the females or something. I said before, like, the knockout should have their own feast or fire. They should have their own cord shot gauntlet. They should have everything that the men have the same. They shouldn't have to like compete, for the same things in the same regards as the men, because it's like, well, that's just, like none of them are going to be mostly as over as most of the men. Like it's a rare occasion that they are, but it's like, again, you're expecting them to compete with, them. It's like, that doesn't make any sense, just on that standard. Even if you say, oh, well, there's not enough people to do a 20 knockout battle royal, or there's not enough people then to do a 10-man battle royal, or 20-man battle royal. Well, do 10-man or 20 knockout, or 10 knockout rather, battle royals, whatever. Do something else, like, doesn't have to be 20 or whatever it is, it can be whatever it is, It doesn't have to be an hour long, doesn't even have to be 30 minutes long. Well, maybe it has to be like 20 minutes long, maybe. But, like, it doesn't have to be that goddamn long, People don't want to sit there for hours on end to get to the point. That's what I mean. This is what I mean by saying people don't really care enough. It's like they don't want to sit there for 6 months or whatever it is of seeing somebody doing this mid-card act. They want to see them going, like Braun Breaker. I think that he could have just kept being the United States champion. He wasn't the United States champion for very long there. And I don't think people really ever paid much attention to the fact that he was US champ. And I think he was champ twice, wasn't he? Was he? I can't remember. Anyway, he had that one like really great promo and that one really great thing like leading into WrestleMania, but like people didn't really care all that much. They would rather see him just like as a killer coming after the world title. Give him other things like you did with Brock Lesnar or whoever. It's like, okay, we'll have you win like King of the Ring or some other, tournament, or we'll give you a Royal Rumble win, or we'll give you a Money in the Bank, or we'll give you something, to build you up, some feuds, some wins, and then we'll move you into the main event picture. Instead of just saying, we'll give you all the same feuds that we were going to give you with this mid-card belt, but basically we'll just give you those feuds without the belt, and then we'll give you a world title picture instead. That's a better way, like to the fans, that's a better way of like doing it, of just saying for 6 months or whatever else it is, this is what we're going to do with you. We're going to have you in these stories that we're already like, if you were going to put him in some story, to have a fatal 4-way or a triple threat or whatever else it is, just for him to do a version of the Steiner Math promo, then just do that and then say, okay, cool. Then he goes off and goes and does something else, and then goes into the world title division, he didn't even need to be part of that, because it's like, well, so what, He's not going to win he didn't need to win anyway, but whatever. It's kind of the fun stuff to show you, hey, this guy's on his rise, or this guy's here, or this guy didn't get beat, or this guy's a killer and whatnot. All of this stuff. Showcase him in the Royal Rumble. Have him spear people's boots off. Do these crazy things with him, or whatever else it is. And, get him to do, like, and he's, like, I say he's not the best talker, but he's not friggin' the worst. Get him to do a few promos and things like that. Have him, like, he's meant to be the badass killer. That's all he has to do, is go out there and wreck people. He doesn't need to go out there, and be a babyface. That's not what he is. It's not what people want out of him. Like, you could try to do the Goldberg thing, but it's like, I think he works better as, that, unhinged sort of heel, So, but yeah. No, like I said, it's not procrastination in some ways, but it is very much like this, like, idea where, or this perception of, nah, you've got to earn your dues or whatever else it is. Dude, they've been earning their dues elsewhere. They've been, like, especially like a lot of these people have been wrestling for a long time. Oh no, you got to earn your dues with us as well. No, don't be like, well, you've got to earn your dues with us. If they've earned their dues, or if somebody doesn't want to give them respect, or, in your locker room or whatever else it is, then say, okay, well, that's the first thing, well, that's one of the first major things that we're going to do. You have a problem with this person? Right, cool. You two are going to have a match. You two are going to have a program and a match in 6 months, or whatever it is, 3 months, whatever it is, or in a year, or whatever it is, And then he's going to, we're going to see whether he's gotten over on you or not, in these 6 months of working together, or whatever. So, yeah, I think that I don't know whether it's the time-honored traditions of, like, there's some of that, like, where it's like, oh, we can't do anything with anyone for 6 months or whatever. We can only put them in a mid-card role. We can't put them in a world title role because that's the time-honored... Fuck your time-honored tradition, like, in that regard, You need to say, no, this is another way we've got to build people. We've got to build people without, like, some people, certainly other people they need to go into that mid-card division and they need to gain legitimacy. Like Carmelo Hayes, he needs to go into that mid-card division and he needs to gain legitimacy in some ways. But that should have happened like a few years ago. And maybe, yes, it was a different leadership back then, but you should have probably done it a few years ago when you first seized into power and said, okay, who's getting really hot? Who's doing something? Who are the fans latching onto? Or whatever. Let's go with that then. Like, people really like Dominic Mysterio. Okay, cool. We're going to put that belt on him now. Oh, and Carmelo Hayes is getting really hot. Okay, we'll put the other belt on him then. Whatever. It does give more people more opportunities, but it's also like, if you had have said, okay, Dom is this really great heel and people really like Carmelo. Okay, instead of having both of them hold two different separate belts that are halfway, as valuable as what both of them together would be, one of them holds one of the belts, aka Dom. He's going to hold it for 6 months or whatever it is. Carmelo is going to be chasing him and chasing him and chasing him and trying to get that belt for 6 months, and then he's finally going to do it. And there we go. We've built him up. He's gotten his win. He's going to have that title for a few months or whatever it is, and then he's going to move on. Dom's going to move up to the world title division after that or whatever it is. Again, same sort of thing. Start elevating people. Start saying, hey, Dom lost this title to Carmelo 6 months ago or whatever it was. Now he's one of the world champions or the world champion. And now here comes Carmelo coming back or whatever it is, saying, hey, I beat you 6 months ago. Now you're the world champion. I reckon I can beat you for that belt too. That's the way you can elevate them. In saying, hey, I beat you before in the mid-card division. So mid-card feels more important. You can't just say, oh, everything that happened there is forgotten about, or whatever else, the stories that were there don't matter, or the results that were there that don't matter, or the history that's there doesn't matter, or whatever else it is. It still has to matter, and it still has to apply to what you're doing. But yeah, guys like Bron Breakker, they do not need that mid-card division. They can just steamroll to the main event. They're very easy to say, okay, instead of giving you this belt, we can just give you some stories. We can just give you some matches. Just give you some wins and whatnot, and a few promos and whatnot, and build you up into that main event picture. So not everyone's the same, certainly. But yeah, again, when you're saying, hey, let's figure out, how we're going to use you, that has to come from the production side, or whatever you want to call it, and the talent side. You can't just be phoning it in and saying, oh yeah, whatever, I'm here and I'm here to do what I can do, or whatever. Yeah, sure, of course you are. Everyone's here to do what they can do, but if you're just there and being like, whatever, but it's the same thing from a production or from the booking side or the management side, whatever you want to call it. It's like, oh yeah, we have this guy, he's here, but whatever. We just see him as a mid-card guy or whatever. Don't be like that. Don't be like, oh yeah, we've got this guy. Right now he looks like a good mid-carder. Maybe in a few years the fans might latch onto him a lot more. And there certainly are some really vocal people that say, oh yeah, we want to see this person get up the card or whatever else it is. Okay, so let's start trying to do that for them and see how well the rest of the crowd kind of goes along that ride. Let's give him a mid-card title. Let's give him some stories in that mid-card. Let's start building him up. Let's see how that goes. And then, we'll see where we are, in 6 months' time. We'll take that belt off of him one way or the other because, well, that's what we've got to do. And then we'll move on from there. We'll see if he's going to be in that world title picture, or maybe we'll keep him in that mid-card space just for a little bit longer, or maybe we'll have him win a big match here for number one contendership, at the world title, maybe at a more minor pay-per-view, not SummerSlam or the Rumble or WrestleMania or whatever, but, just at another show, and he gets his opportunity when there's a lot of other stuff. Maybe Money in the Bank, because Money in the Bank's already a decent pay-per-view. It is somewhat of a big pay-per-view, but it's not going to have to be carried by somebody saying, hey, I'm going to challenge you and I probably have no chance, type thing. Those matches that people feel like, oh man, this person's, just here. They haven't really had a big story. They haven't had a lot of wins. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of momentum behind them. So if they win it, oh yeah, it's going to be a big surprise, but it's still going to be like, oh yeah, they're just kind of here. And that's the apathy too that you've got to fight within, or the whatever that you've got to have as well, where it's like the fans not phoning it in. The fans are not feeling it because the fans are so used to you doing the same things of saying, oh yeah, whatever, we're apathetic, we don't care, whatever. That's the problem. Again, there's so many issues with like that sort of that general apathy around that area, because the only area that is consistently like an area that is red hot and you've got to go, okay, we've got to try, we've got to put our attention to it, we've got to work on it, we've got to, focus in, and we've got to have good things going on for this division, is the world title division, 9 times out of 10, or the female world title division. So those are the only titles that people perceive have that value, because those are the only divisions that get the time, get the effort, get the energy put in them. But those are the things that you need to put in as well, now, because it's like people have gotten too used to, this whole like, oh, well, the mid card doesn't mean anything, so I can just skip through whatever and just maybe watch some highlights or whatever else it is until the main event, like fairly much. So, and those are the only things that matter, and the only other things that matter are some of these like proper big shows, so I can tune out of the minor shows. They don't really matter. Nothing's really going to happen there anyway. So yeah, like that's where you've got to be like, oh no, anything can happen, and we're going to actually build this person up. We're actually going to be, really hot on this person, and it feels like, oh, they might win. You never know, type thing. That's where you've got to not have any apathy from anybody or any phoning in from anybody. It's all like, oh shit, what, whoa, it actually feels like this has been built up. This person's been here for 3 or 4 months, 5, 6 months, whatever it's been. They've been on fire. They've been killing it. They haven't won a mid-card title, and somehow they're getting this title opportunity for the world title. What's going on here? Like, are they going to win? Who knows? Well, maybe we'll tune in and see, like, again, finding those things that people will actually give a shit about, like, is like going and then delivering on it is the thing of like making sure people aren't apathetic to these things or aren't, phoning it in for these things. It's like people are just there for enjoyment at the end of the day, and some things they'll enjoy. But like when it's like, well, we're just dragging our feet and just continuing to drag, and we'll get there. Eventually we'll get to the main event. And now we're running. Like now we're actually caring. Now it seems like, oh yes, like this is what we cared about. Like finally the excitement is up. The people are engaged because there's been something, a story being told. The wrestlers have been, and again, I say not every person can do this every week or every month or whatever it is, but it's like, you've got to have those things in that mid card or in that sort of lower card area. It's like you can't just have things that are just like, oh yeah, no one should tune in except for the main event because that's the only thing that matters. You have to make each division feel like it's on fire. You must have to feel like, oh shit, I've got to tune in to see this shit. Like such and such, these people, whatever, or this person has been on fire, or these people have been doing all this crazy stuff, and maybe they're going to beat these other people and take the belts or something, right, okay, cool, I'm going to sit and watch this, or whatever it is, or maybe they're going to go into this match that's a crazy match, and maybe they're going to have an absolute bloodbath, whatever it is, or maybe like, It's like with legends, with people that are looking to retire. Here comes Brock Lesnar. Here comes Goldberg. Or here comes this other person. Okay, cool. Now here we have Braun Breaker or whoever it is, Gunther or whoever it is, whatever. And suddenly they beat, Brock Lesnar or whoever it is. And it's like, whoa, baby. You get that moment of being like, shit, they must have some shit planned for this boy. Like sort of thing. So you're making those big moments or those big things for some people. And it's easier for some people, again, than others. But just, you're trying to do that same thing for titles. You're trying to say, hey, especially mid-card titles, not just saying, oh, yeah, well, it's going to happen. Whatever. And again, like some matches, it's fine for some matches to absolutely be like free to air on TV or whatever. But other matches, it's like, dude, what the fuck? Why is this on, free TV or whatever it is? Like, this is like, if this is a match that what people have wanted to see and hasn't ever happened, it's like, dude, the fuck, people have wanted this for 5, 6, 10 years or whatever it's been. So, like, give it to them on pay-per-view. And maybe you're like, oh, yeah, well, this is going to end in Shimaz or whatever. And then they're going to have their proper match on the pay-per-view. Instead of doing that, it's like, put them in the tag team match or something then, Or if you've already put them in tag team matches, okay, have them have a face-off, something else. Have them have a promo or a contract signing or something else or some other way of saying, okay, cool. They're going to meet this Sunday, live on pay-per-view. Build it up for months, like whatever. That's the sort of thing that people want to see. These build-ups. And I understand people want the build-ups to be faster and whatnot or whatever. But it's like, still you could do that very easily. That's what I mean about there needs to be things firing on all cylinders. It's like there needs to be 5 or 6, at least a couple of people in each division where it's like, oh man, this person's on a streak. That person's on a streak. Oh man, these 2 or 3 people are like, oh man, they could be the next breakout star in the X division or in this tag team division or whatever it is, or in the, international division or whatever it is, or maybe they're even going up to the heavyweight division. We're not going to be surprised if they're not in the world title division, but like we'll be surprised if they are. But certainly if they're, getting that opportunity, like Brad Bronson a few months ago, whatever it was, a few weeks back, whatever it was like, oh, well, we probably know he's not winning. This is like his first opportunity to the title, and he's only been here for like 2 weeks or whatever. He hasn't really been built up. But this is a spot to say, okay, we're looking at you. We've seen what you've done. Like we want to see how the audience reacts to you, and we want to build you up. So, and we want to solidify you in some ways in the fans' mind of saying, this guy could be a next big thing, like not just saying, oh, he lost, so sad, now what's he going to do? No, he's going to be here. He's going to be this big bear, and he's going to do stuff or whatever it is. And he's gonna be somebody that people go, okay, cool. What are we gonna do with him? Okay, cool. Are we behind the big old bear? And things like that. So it's like, there's so many things that you can always do. So it's like, you can always easily fight this perception or this apathy or this, like people are just like, yeah, I'm signed and I'm getting my money and I'm just going to come in and phone it in and whatever. I don't really care because like if I'm not the guy or in a position where they're like booking me every week and they actually care and they're actually putting focus on me and they're actually talking to me and whatnot and all this other stuff where it's like, oh, I feel like we're going somewhere or we're getting something or something's happening or whatnot. And now I'm energized because now it's like, oh man, yeah, we can get somewhere or we can do something or this is interesting or whatever else it is, or I can feel the fervor from the fans or whatever it is. If that's not happening, then that's where people start going, whatever, and start phoning it in. And it is very easy once you reach that mountaintop, especially if you've been there for a little while, to be starting to be like, I don't have to try anymore. I've reached this mountaintop. I've done it all. So what? I don't really care about if I'm phoning it in or whatever now, because I'm already done. I'm already cool with that. But then it's like, well, maybe I shouldn't phone it in, because that's not just reflected of me, especially if you're in that position. It's a reflection of, the company as a whole, and it's a reflection of whoever's going to beat me. So, maybe like saying, oh, well, they beat me, but I was sleeping or whatever, or I didn't really care. Then why are you going to come back and go, oh, I care now? Like what I mean? Like, if you didn't care then, why do you care now? Oh, because I got beat. Whatever. Like, what? This is crazy. What are you talking about? But yeah, guys, I know you guys know and are very knowledgeable and all of this stuff, but it's so important. I'm just so talkative. I love wrestling, and I love to talk about these things of wrestling. I can't help myself, so I have to come on here and talk about it. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about it. So, anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed either way, and hope you join me again in another one.